Hi everyone, today me, Shahira and UMAIRA will present about how animals reproduce.
For an animal species to survive, individual must reproduce. In animals, this process forms the sex cell or gamete which subsequently unite to form genetically unique offspring. The tremendous amount of genetic variation that is created during meiosis can be advantageous to the survival of a species, especially when the environment is changing. In asexual reproduction, a single parent gives rise to offspring that are identical to the parent unless mutations have occurred. The adaptive advantage of asexual reproduction is that the organism can reproduce rapidly and colonize favorable environment quickly. Although the majority of animals reproduce sexually, a few groups of animals are also capable of asexual reproduction. The majority of animals are dioecious, which means having separate sexes. Usually during sexual reproduction, the egg of one parent is fertilized by the sperm of another. Monoecious or hermaphroditic, animals have both male and female sex organs in a single body. Some hermaphroditic organisms, such as tapeworm, are capable of self-fertilization, but the majority, such as earthworm, practice cross-fertilization with other individuals.
Each one produces sperm and eggs, generating huge batches of offspring. In fact, the number of eggs generated by even one tapeworm exceeds the total number of human beings alive on Earth.
Sequential hermaphrodity or sex reversal also occurs. In coral reef fishes called wrasses, a male has harem of several females, and if the male dies, the largest female becomes a male. Animals usually produce gametes in specialized organs called gonads. Sponges are an exception to this rule because the collar cell lining the central cavity of a sponge gives rise to sperm and eggs. Hydras and other cnidarians produce only temporary gonads in the fall when sexual reproduction occurs. Animals in other phyla have permanent reproduction organs. The gonads are testes, which produce sperm, and ovaries, which produce eggs. Eggs or sperm are derived from germ cells which become specialized for this purpose during early development. Other cells in a gonad support and nourish the developing gamete or produce hormone necessary to the reproductive process. The reproductive system also usually has a number of accessory structures such as ducts and storage areas that aid in bringing the gametes together. Several types of flatworm, roundworm, crustaceans, annelid, insect, fishes, lizards, and even some turtles have the ability to reproduce parthenogenetically. Parthenogenesis is a modification of sexual reproduction in which an unfertilized egg develops into a complete individual. In honeybees, the queen bee makes and stores sperm which she uses to selectively fertilize eggs. Any unfertilized eggs become haploid males.
Queen bees have a spermatheca on their side, where they store thousands of sperm for later use. She will go on to lay about 2,000 eggs in spring and summer. The queen decides whether or not to release sperm from the spermatheca organ, where she releases an oocyte from her own ovaries. In honeybees, sex is determined by the fertilization or non-fertilization of eggs, rather than the presence of sex chromosomes. If no sperm is released, the unfertilized egg will become a male, or drone. This is called a haploid egg, because it only has one set of chromosomes. If sperm is introduced, the fertilized egg will become a female. This is a diploid egg, because it has two sets of chromosomes.
Many aquatic animals practice external fertilization, in which the gametes are released and unite outside the bodies of the reproducing animals. Among fishes, method of fertilization and care of the developing embryos vary greatly. Some species simply scatter large number of eggs and sperm in the environment, and some may even eat their eggs or offspring. Moth brooders scoop up their eggs or newly hatched young into their mouth, protecting them from predators. Other fish species build elaborate nests for their eggs made from plant, debris, and saliva-coated bubbles. An invertebrate aquatic species called palolo worms, which inhabit coral reef in the South Pacific, exhibit a unique fertilization strategy. Always at the same time of the year and during particular phase of the moon, the worms break in half. During a period of just a few hours, hundreds of thousands of tail sections containing the gonads swim to the surface, releasing eggs and sperm. Meanwhile, local human populations take to the sea using nets to scoop up large numbers of the half-worms, which are eaten raw or served in buckets to be packaged or fried and consumed at an annual feast. Copulation is sexual union to facilitate the reception of sperm, resulting in internal fertilization. In terrestrial vertebrate, males typically have a penis for depositing sperm into the vagina of females, but not so in birds, which lack a penis and vagina. They have a cloaca, a chamber that receives product from the digestive, urinary, and reproductive tracts. A male transfers sperm to a female after placing his cloacal opening against hers. In damsel flies, the female curls her abdomen forward to receive sperm previously deposited in a pouch by the male, but copulation in the usual sense does not occur.
Hi, let me present to you about the types of invertebrates that use asexual reproduction. Firstly, Cnidarian. Here is an example of hydras. The new individuals can produce asexually as an outgrowth bud of the parents, so the new polyp bud from parental will produce. Secondly, flatworms. The flatworms will splitting in half, then generating two identical individuals. The example of organisms that have same mechanism are planarian, sponges, annelids, and echinoderm. In laboratory, when planarian cut into 10 pieces, each of the cut part will grow into a new individuals. For the last part, I want to show you the life history strategies used for all of these organisms. The life history strategies is the age and stage specific patterns and timing of events that make up an organism's life, such as birth, weaning, maturation, and death. Firstly, the life history strategies of oviparous. Oviparous is the animal that deposits an egg, so the development occurs in an egg of the reptiles. Before the animal deposit their egg, they have larval stage, which is an immature different feeding styles. Besides, its baby use a different food source than its adult. As example, there are a lot of oviparous animals around us, such as chicken, crocodiles, snake, parrot, turtle, flamingos, frog, duck, and salamander. Secondly, the life history strategies of ovoviviparous. Ovoviviparous is the animal that develop internally, so the young that are developing are still receiving nourishment from a yolk of parent body. For this case, there are some invertebrates, fish, amphibians, and reptiles that use these strategies. As examples, you can see here, the male seahorses have a broad pouch for development of the fertilized eggs from live offspring. And also certain mollusks retain their eggs in the mantle cavity. Thirdly, the life history strategies of the viviparous. Viviparous is the animal that do not lay eggs and develop inside female's body. Out of all, viviparity shows the ultimate in caring for the newborn. In placenta, the complex structure derived from chorion, another reptilian extramembryonic membrane. It allows the developing young to internally exchange material with mother. Fourthly, the life history strategies of the reptiles. Reptiles are the animals that lay leathery shelled egg that contains extramembryonic membranes for embryo needs. The extramembryonic will prevent the young from drying up. Besides, its internal membrane help to adapt terrestrial environment. As example of reptiles are turtles and crocodiles. Next, the life history strategies of the birds. Birds lay and care for their hard-shelled egg that will known as incubating their eggs. After that, the hatchling need to be fed before they are able to fly away to search food. The reproductive behavior of parental birds need hormonal and neural regulation. Lastly, the life history strategies of the mammals. Mammals are divided into two types, which are first, mammal that lay shelled egg such as duckbill, platypus and spiny anthier, and second, mammals that do not lay eggs, such as marsupials and placental mammals. Marsupials, which is the yolk sac membrane, will supply nutrients to the unborn embryo internally from mother, and the immature develop in a pouch that nourish on meat such as koala and macropods. In conclusion, asexual reproduction may quickly produce a large number of offspring genetically identical to the parent. Sexual reproduction involves gametes and produce offspring that are genetically slightly different from the parents. The gonads are the primary sex organ which produce primary germ cells. Fertilization can be external or internal. Internal fertilization is facilitated by copulation or sexual union. In hermaphroditic animals, single individuals have both male and female gonads. In parthenogenesis, an unfertilized egg develops into an adult. Next, the egg of oviparous animals contain yolk, and in terrestrial animals, a shell egg prevents it from drying out. Ovoviviparous animals retain their eggs until the offspring have hatched, while viviparous animals retain the embryo and give birth. Eggs of reptiles have extramembranic membranes that allow them to develop on land. The same membranes are modified into a placenta for internal development in mammals. Placenta mammals exemplify viviparous animals.